good morning, and welcome to the video. We are deep in marathon prep right now. I think I'm about 7 weeks out, and it's Saturday, March 6th, and today I have programmed in my training plan a 16-mile long run. So today I want to take you through what I eat on a day where I'm running 16 miles. Now, before I actually get into the video, I want to throw a fat disclaimer on here, which is for anyone who's new to my channel, or if this is the first video that you're just happening to come across. Hello, I'm running a marathon to raise awareness for sexual assault. I was sexually abused personally, and I've also experienced a ton of other body traumas in my life that have affected the relationship that I have with food, what I put in my body, and how I treat it. So this is going to be a very food-focused day of eating. This is not going to be like some typical runner who's just like, oh yeah, I ate whatever's in the fridge and I didn't care about it. So if that's something that you're not into, then I would suggest not watching forward. There's going to be no hiding, no covering up my issues. I'm going to be talking openly and honestly about my triggers and the way that I experience food today, 7 weeks out from my marathon, before I've done any of this inner work with my therapist, because I want an honest baseline for where I'm starting before we do any of that work. And who knows, maybe in 7 weeks, maybe in 8 weeks, maybe in 12 weeks, I'll be able to make a follow-up to this video and it'll be a lot healthier. So with that being said, let's get into meal number one. So we got here meal number one. This is 2 low-calorie English muffins. 3 of these have butter and jelly, and then this one right here has peanut butter and honey, and they all have a little crack of Himalayan pink salt on top because I'm trying to make sure that my sodium is up in addition to the carbs. In addition to the English muffins right here, I also have a protein shake. This is just 1 scoop of whey protein with 10 ounces of almond milk in there. And then I will try to get these 2 things down for meal number one with about an hour and a half to digest before I set off on my run. So I'm gonna get this down now and then get ready for the 16 miles. Alright guys, it's 10 a.m. I'm at my starting point and I'm about to toe off. I just want to run through some intra-run nutrition real quick. So in here, I just have 1 Gatorade Zero, a scoop of sugared Gatorade, which is like 80 calories, and I added a whole bunch of salt in here because again, electrolytes and resalting is super important for me. And then I've got 3 pieces of food that I'm going to be consuming over the course of the 16 miles. I've got 2 GU energy gels. These have, I think, 100 calories in them and a whole bunch of aminos and a little bit of caffeine. And this one is just a hard food source because I find that if I have more than 2 of like the liquid gels, my stomach starts to get a little funky sometimes. So this honey stinger is 140 calories. Most of this is just fat and carb, and this one has a little bit of protein. And I will consume 1 of these every 4.5 miles, so mile 4.5, mile 9, and mile 13.5 to get me through the next roughly 2.5 hours. So with that being said, I'm gonna get out on this long run. It's pretty chilly, but hopefully this is the last cold run of this prep, and I will check in with you when we're all said and done. Alright, 16-mile run complete. That is a new distance PR for me. I'm really happy about how it went, but honestly, kind of demoralizing. It makes you realize like a marathon is 10 more miles than that, but this is why we do tough things. You know, at one point, 16 miles felt completely impossible to me, and I just got it done. Last week, I was terrified to do 15 miles, but doing that springboarded me into 16 miles and made me realize that it was achievable. So gonna keep doing the work, and I will check back in with you for meal number 2. Alright, so meal number 2, I did a plate of arugula with some barbecue sauce, 2 whole eggs. I have 2 pieces of toast. 1 piece I decided to crush up and kind of make like into pseudo croutons here. A little sprinkle of Parmesan on the arugula, some pickled beets, and some corn salsa on the side. So, a few things on diet. Before I dive into this meal, I want to quickly run through sort of like my nutritional disclosure statement, which is that on a long run day, more than any other day of the week, my day can roughly be broken up into 2 separate segments. The first segment is pre-run and intra-run nutrition, where I'm okay with eating basically just super carby, high-fat meals because I know that it is going to help fuel my run. And then we get to segment number 2, which is post-run. Every single thing that I eat after a long run is tracked. It's mentally tracked. I don't count calories on my long run days. I count every other day of the week because I think that if I see the amount of calories that I'm consuming on a day like today where I legitimately need them and I'm going to give them to my body, I'm afraid that I'm going to shame myself or just really, really not enjoy what I'm eating. So I never track on a long run day, but mentally I'm thinking about every single thing that I'm consuming. And there's another very important but very subtle form of restriction in meals like this, which is that when I tell you I had 2 pieces of toast, I'm not telling you that this is a 45 calorie piece of low calorie bread. I'm not telling you that the barbecue sauce that I put on my salad is sugar-free 10 calorie sauce. I'm not telling you these little things because I don't want to hear myself say and admit that these are things that I care about. You know, a few years ago, I would eat a piece of full calorie multigrain toast. I would slather barbecue sauce or those full fat, high calorie dressings all over my meals. And then when I found nutritional substitutes like this, these were a godsend because then I could eat 5, 6, 7 times the amount of food in volume, but not have any more calories. And it's to the point now, unfortunately, because I've abused these forms of substitutes essentially, where if I don't have access to them, if I'm at a friend's house, if I'm out to dinner at a restaurant, I won't eat the bread. I won't eat the baked potato because I don't know what's in it. And that scares me because I just get into this massive shame rabbit hole that I can't dig my way out of. But like, side note, doing this full day of eating and admitting it all on camera, while it's very challenging for me, is actually making me like respect my food more. So thank you, whoever's watching this, because I think you're helping me heal. So we need to talk. It is the next day after I attempted to film my full day of eating yesterday, and there were a few foods that I consumed that unfortunately could not make their way into the video. The first was between my lunch and my dinner, which was the normal size portion of ice cream, a little bit of chocolate, and the peanut M&Ms. And then I had Chinese food for dinner, which you saw, but I can't talk about food in front of other people, especially not my family, who neither knows that I struggle with these issues or that I have a YouTube channel. So I didn't really talk through it. I just kind of recorded some clips because at that point I already knew that I was gonna end this video like this. And then after dinner, after I overate maybe by satiety, but maybe underate by the amount that I ran, who knows, that Chinese food, I had some Ben & Jerry's, which I also was unable to film. And that made me realize that this relationship that I have with food is a lot worse than I originally thought. I talked about this in the last video that I made, the goal setting video, but you know, the traumas that I've experienced, the sexual abuse and the history of body trauma, has made me very conscious of my stomach, how my stomach feels, how bloated I am. And I've learned to use that as a signal of my worthiness and how healthy I am. And at some point along the way, I stopped eating foods that I deemed bad. And honestly, the labeling of certain foods as bad, restricting myself and avoiding certain foods and saying I can't eat that, is probably what leads me to overeat them in a shame spiral. But that's exactly what happened. I cannot talk about foods that I eat that I know normal person would run 16 miles or do any sort of intense training, and they just probably say, yeah, and I ate a pint of Ben & Jerry's, and that would be totally normal because you're expending so many calories and your body is just looking for nutrition wherever it can get it. But I'm kind of sitting there in the corner and I'm sneaking a second portion hoping that nobody sees, and it was impossible for me to share that on camera. I think because I'm ashamed of myself. And I'm ashamed of eating certain foods and showing that I eat certain foods because I see some things as good versus bad. And, you know, if I'm eating foods that in some weird part of my brain I've decided don't serve me and are bad for me, then I'm failing and I can't be imperfect, because that's a big source of vulnerability for me. In fact, even choosing to end a video like this is true vulnerability. This honestly is such a work in progress, and I don't want to be talking about the things that I'm saying right now on camera, but I know that that lack of desire to account for it and to share it is exactly why I'm supposed to do it. And it makes sense to me, not just from the traumas that I've experienced, but also as a society where this comes from. We're fed messages all the time now that being smaller is better, that being skinnier is better. And this diet culture has become so toxic, you know, like, there are companies that brand themselves as lesser evil. Everything is a lower calorie version, and why that stuff can be really good for some people, it makes it seem like there's no reason to ever have like full calorie versions of things. And it can create a system and a cycle where people are just constantly shaming others for, you know, eating certain types of foods and eating in a certain type of way. And that's where I've gotten personally. But there's more to life than low-calorie ice cream and low-calorie bread, and I honestly cannot wait to reclaim the relationship that I have with food. I can't wait to meet with my therapist this week and tell her about the experience of filming this video and how challenging it was for me to share transparently all the foods that I ate, all the food types that I ate, you know, the Ben & Jerry's and the peanut M&Ms, how I view those things as bad when I shouldn't, because the only way that we can fix that and heal from that is by talking through it and by being open and honest about it. So I guess that's what I'm trying to achieve here. Even though this isn't going to be the most exciting, positive, encouraging, helpful lesson for anybody, there needs to be a baseline, and this is where I'm starting, honestly and truthfully. I am not perfect, and this is an uncomfortable road for me, but I want nothing more than to love my body and to learn how to treat my body with respect and not be ashamed of any corners of my soul or any lived experience that I've had. And I think more than anything else, I don't want this video to end in a bad tone. It's positive. This is where I'm starting, and that means that all we have to do is go up from here, and I want to believe that that's possible. And I want to show anybody else who might be struggling with this or something similar that it's possible too. With that being said, I am going to wrap up the video here. If you liked the video, then please like the video down below. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. I love you, and I will see you next week.